Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and we have a new trailer for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Literally, a new trailer. I don't mean when sometimes Nintendo reshares some clips from a trailer that people don't pay attention to, and then different outlets come out and say, oh, we have a new trailer. No. I mean literally, actually, truly, a new trailer for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond just came out. We have new scenes, new areas, new things that are being shown off here, and we're going to be breaking it down today. I was actually totally surprised that we got this trailer today. We had all the reviews come out for Hyrule Warriors. We also have a whole bunch of new financial data from Nintendo, and we will be talking about these things later on in the week. But as I've been telling you all, my priority right now is probably what's going to be Nintendo's best game of the year, and maybe one of Nintendo's greatest games in a very, very long time, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It's coming out December 4th. Today is November 4th. They put out a new trailer. And yes, we have an epic trailer analysis to get into today. Do you find yourself feeling tired, unable to take a good nap during the day from wherever you may be? Then perhaps you are in need of a soft, comfortable sleep mask that blocks out all light. Fortunately, Manta Sleep, the sponsor for today's video, has just that, a quality sleep mask. This sleep mask has super soft, comfy cushions that cover your eyes and block out all light. It's easy to adjust to different sizes, and it feels great to wear. And it's helped me personally fit in just a bit more rest during my days. So if you're looking to improve your sleep and energy, check out the Manta Sleep Mask using the link in the description below with my code SLEEPRESTART. So I started watching this trailer with some caution because I did see some early scenes that just looked like scenes we had seen before. So within the first few seconds of the trailer, I'm left to think, okay, this might just be kind of like a trailer combining different trailers into one. But as the trailer progresses, we start to see more and more new scenes. And there is something I noticed about the overall trailer. The pacing, the music, it's on a different level. It almost feels kind of like a movie trailer, or at least a more dramatic trailer, something more along the lines of what we've talked about they should be doing for the Metroid Prime 4 trailers, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, this is still a relatively short trailer. I do not believe this is like the final trailer before the game comes out. I still think there's probably going to be some type of Nintendo Direct for Metroid Prime 4, or at least an equivalent where we get a lot of new information within some sort of longer presentation. But let me just play a few quick clips here. As you can see and hear, this trailer is more dramatic, there's more of an epic feel to it, the music is really drawing you in, it does feel kind of like something very cinematic, very movie-like, and I think this is the start to Nintendo's true marketing campaign for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. But continuing on with this trailer here, the first thing I noticed that really stood out to me is this shot here where we see Samus exploring the forest area as she's come out of what appears to be a portal towards the back. And we've seen this scene before. Some people might think it's exactly the same. And it is the same setting it looks like, but there are definitely differences here. So we saw this scene with the very first proper trailer for Metroid Prime 4 back in summer of 2024. This is the last scene they had shown. But putting these side by side, you can see there have been a lot of changes. Visually, this looks a lot better. Now, all this footage is for the Nintendo Switch 2 version, which is what Nintendo is fully marketing right now. That is the priority, and I'm sure that plays a role here, but there have literally been changes to the environment. Like, just look at the dirt path, for example. It's actually a complete dirt path in the new footage, but in the old footage, not so much. And just overall, this new footage here looks mind-blowingly better. The color, the clarity, the shadows, the extra details, it just looks so much better. And it definitely has me thinking that maybe we should be doing a graphics analysis at some point soon, just talking about how much Metroid Prime 4 has improved over this last year or so from early footage we've seen versus now, because there are some pretty substantial differences. But now on to a clip that's totally new, not just an enhanced version of a clip, but a totally new clip here. And this is showing Samus in the storm area, which we have seen before, but not this particular section. And as we see here, Samus is crouching and standing up, like she's entering this area for the first time. And I actually think I know what happened here. As we've seen before, it looks like there are definitely portals in this game, and so it seems like Samus has been portaled to this area. So my speculation here, which I feel pretty good about, is that after Samus comes out of a portal, she's in the air until she lands downwards and starts off in a crouch. Very much how she starts off most areas in Metroid games, like we even see in the first trailer for this very game. And so she's first introduced to this storm area via a portal. That's my thinking here. We've seen Samus come out of multiple portals, and we've been theorizing that there are actually a lot of portals all throughout Metroid Prime 4. If you've been following a lot of my different analysis and theory videos on this game, we are continually seeing more and more portals. We recently noticed a portal in this one small screenshot of this massive ice cavern in the Nintendo Dream magazine scans. In the back of the box art, we see a room filled with portals. In the initial switch to edition footage, we see Samus coming out of a portal. And then there's that one shot we talked about earlier where she's coming out of a portal as well. So portals are going to play a vital role to Metroid Prime 4. They are likely going to be giving us at least an opportunity to get to other points of the map more quickly, but there also could be something going beyond that, pun intended. Now, something else important about this scene, though, is that she's entering the storm area, and her suit is still the typical Various suit. She's already been imbued with her psychic powers, but this is not the Viola suit, and we'll speak more on this situation a little bit later on into the video. This next scene here seems to be depicting some sort of a temple or factory or some sort of combination of both within what I believe to be a volcano. And we've talked about before how we've noticed that there does appear to be a volcano off into the distance. This is separate from the storm area, from the icy mountains, from the forest area. This is another area where there's a big mountain with smoke coming out, so likely some kind of volcano. I would not be surprised if what we're seeing in here is a part of that massive volcano area. Which just goes to show a lot of these giant structures we see off into the distance aren't just there for background, they are actually points we can get to eventually as we continue progressing throughout the massive world of Prime 4. Now with this next scene here, we can see there's some sort of cinematic as we are seeing Samus from a third-person point of view, and she's looking at something opening up. We're looking at it from the perspective of whatever is opening up here. Now, what I will note about this environment, it looks very much like the environment we've seen where Samus is using her psychic lasso. So perhaps this may be the scene where we unlock the psychic lasso, and what's opening up here is some kind of chest or power-up to obtain that lasso. I will also point out that we do see what appears to be a portal in the back of the room, another example of portals taking us elsewhere throughout this massive world. This next scene here I find extremely fascinating for a variety of reasons. This appears to be the first time Samus is entering the vast desert of Vuros. One, notice that she's still wearing her Various suit. She's not wearing the Viola suit, so she doesn't have the motorcycle, so how does she traverse this vast expanse? It also appears that it's very hot. They're showing off a really cool effect here where we're seeing the brightness of the sun bounce off the desert, and Samus's eyes are adjusting to the intense light. She's even bringing up her hand to shield her face as she adjusts to the light. It's a very cool animation. We've seen a little bit of this with the snow area, which they do show a little bit later on in this trailer as well. So it's a cool animation, it's a cool lighting effect, and we are now in this vast desert. As you can tell from just seeing that Samus has just 10 missiles and also just one energy tank, and again, only having the Various suit, clearly this is very early on into the game, probably the very first time we get into the desert. Now, something else to note here, we can see more close up than ever before these crystals, which we've already heard from Nintendo themselves in a report on their own website, that you can break down these crystals, presumably for some kind of resource. Could be as simple as missiles or energy, perhaps there's something else. And I've been looking at the structure off into the distance, I really don't know what I can make of it. I am just assuming it's some sort of ruin, but I will point out since Samus likely does not have the Viola motorcycle at this point, given that she does not have the Viola suit, it might be the case that she finds a portal that gets her out of there. Maybe this portal is in this ruin just up ahead, which is what takes us to the storm area where we see Samus crouching down, maybe because she just got out of a portal, bring her to the area where she would then unlock the Viola suit. But just keep this in mind as we progress through the trailer, because there is something else a little bit later on that will further support this. Going back to the part where Samus is crossing the bridge in this icy, snowy area, we've seen this place before, as I've already noted. However, something we see here that we did not see before, perhaps because it was obscured by Samus' arm cannon or simply because it wasn't there before, is an energy tank. With this next part here, we see that Samus is exploring this lush cave area. I believe we've actually seen Samus exploring this area before. If we go back to the Welcome to Vyros trailer, she's exploring a very similar area here. And from what we can see here, Samus just has one energy tank that presumably we get from planet Tanamar. There are no missiles or anything like that, so likely she's lost some of her powers and she has to sort of do a little bit of a restart, pun intended there. And so likely this is one of the opening moments to planet Vyros. We even see this little insect running around with a trail behind her. So this might be a little bit of a area to sort of teach us a little bit more about the game. We follow this insect, perhaps it takes us to a door. We likely can chase this insect, kill it from some sort of energy or something like that. You know, it's kind of like a common video game trope to have something like this for us to chase and finding some sort of reward. Here we see Samus using the lasso in this cold environment, very much like the other scene we saw where that door was opening up or some sort of gate was opening up. I do think it's very likely that we get the lasso in the ice area. I will point out that we have seen a giant zip line in the ice area, so perhaps this lasso plays a role with accessing that zip line. Perhaps the first time we get to the ice area it's through a portal, but once we get the lasso we can come back here freely through the zip lines. In the forest area here, we are seeing Samus using her psychic abilities, and it looks like she's using them to reveal some platforms. So these platforms will allow her to get to a higher up place. We can see sort of like a tree bridge just above her. Perhaps there's some sort of missile expansion or something like that that she can get thanks to these abilities. A very Metroid-like power-up, but I will point out this is a very cool power-up to have very early on into the game. As we see here, Samus doesn't even look like she has any missiles. She only has one energy tank. Very early on stuff here, but it looks like we get some pretty awesome abilities very early on. Now in this next section here, there are a lot of clips of different enemies that Samus will be fighting throughout the game. We've seen all of these enemies before, however we are seeing them in more detail. For example, with the wolves, we can literally see their fur swaying in the wind, and there's a lot more detail here. They look a lot better compared to how we saw them with the prior Metroid Prime 4 trailer. I'll also note that as the wolves are running around Samus in a circle here in this pretty large icy area, it almost looks like these wolves are the ones that are forming this sort of blizzard that is blocking Samus from getting out. So they may be the ones creating this massive, crazy blizzard weather effect. Now the next part I'm going to talk about here are these different mechanical drones that are attacking Samus. This looks to be a similar area to where we find Sylix from the prior trailer, because you do see these metal appendages that seem like they can move around and move objects. I'll also point out that at the end of the room we can see some sort of contraption that is shining. This might be some sort of power we can unlock by defeating these enemies. We do get a nice close-up shot of these different Cybots here, and what I really want to focus on here is where Samus is scanning these Cybots. So firstly, I would like to point out Samus already has the Viola suit, as we can see. You can see her arm. In the prior shot we just actually saw her body with the Viola suit, but we also noticed that she only has 2 energy tanks. So this is not very far into the game. We enter Vyros with 1 from the 1 energy tank we acquire on Tanamar during that opening section to the game that really should only take about 10-ish minutes or so, depending on your experience with Metroid games. So in her exploration of Vyros, the forest area, having these psychic abilities, getting into the desert, and then acquiring the Viola suit, she would only have 1 energy tank, so it seems like a lot of the stuff we've seen is all still extremely early game. Likely Nintendo's barely shown us anything from this game so far, really very little, which is very exciting because there's already been some pretty cool stuff they've shown. But actually looking at what Samus is scanning here, it reads Mechanoid Cybot Soldier, basic model of a Lamorne-made Cybot battle android. Typically equipped, we don't even see what it says there. We have access to your logbook, very much like prior Metroid games where you scan an enemy and you can take a deeper look with the logbook if you so choose. But what I think is most important to point out here is that we now have 100% confirmation that these Cybots, that's what the game calls them, these Cybot soldiers, are Lamorne made. They also say that this is the basic model, which implies that there are other more complex models, which would likely mean tougher fights. And we've also talked about how from a lot of the promotional material of Metroid Prime 4, like on the websites and such, there has been a suggestion that the Lamorne aren't necessarily on our side. It's kind of up for debate. So with literally these Lamorne-made sidebots attacking us, that does absolutely bring the whole Lamorne element into question. Are they our allies or are they our foes? Which brings me to this next section here, where we are clearly in a very cold facility and we are fighting what I'm going to be calling Berserk Lamorne. So these characters have a similar amount of appendages as Lamorne. They have a similar amount of tentacles as Lamorne on their heads. We've talked about this before months ago, that there's a good chance that there are different kinds of Lamorne. There are Lamorne that are intelligent, that have psychic abilities, that aim for peace, and then there are Lamorne who are corrupted, that perhaps have lost their intelligence and are berserk like these enemies we are fighting here. That's what I'm theorizing, at least. And this might feed into the whole question of if the Lamorne are our allies or our foes. A neat detail that we are seeing here, though, is that Samus shoots a missile at one of these Berserk Lamorne, and this enemy actually deflects the missile. That's impressive. I'll also point out that in this section, Samus already has 3 energy tanks. She also has 2 different weapon options to the left, the missile launcher and whatever that flame icon is, and then to the right, as we've seen before, she has the missiles and whatever those 3 little orbs are for as well, where she has 70 of. I'm very curious what that is for. They have not revealed that yet at all. And what's also interesting about this scene, we see that Samus does have the ammunition for her 3 Morph Ball bombs, and it looks like she's just getting out of it. They cut into it as the Morph Ball would be disappearing during the animation. It's kind of like purplish, which makes sense. They don't want to reveal how the Morph Ball looks with the Viola suit, which I assume is going to look really cool. But something else neat about this is that we do see this nice backwards walking animation. For this next little bit here, we are seeing even more clips and angles of Samus using the Viola motorcycle, and it all looks really cool, perhaps even more so than before. But something else I'm noticing here is that we are getting a better perspective of this other big point of interest we've talked about on the map. Now, if you've been following me and watching my different videos, I've been trying to put together a very simple map of the overall world of Metroid Prime 4. You have this vast desert in the middle, and to the southwest you have the volcano, to the westish area you have the storm area, to the northwest area we have the forest, and then in the northish area we have the icy mountains, which makes sense, ice mountains to the north. But somewhere around the northeast or east area we see this weird structure. And it was very far off in prior footage to make it out what it is, but now we can see it more clearly, a lot more closer up. We can see some sort of strange energy shield around it. I am going to assume this is preventing us from actually getting to this area. However, now that we see it closer up, I actually think this may be an area we've seen before from the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond key art. There is this giant tower-like structure. I assume this is some sort of giant Lamorne tower, and it's going to be something we can't quite get to early on, but it is there off to the distance for us to see to try and figure out how we can eventually get there. Now with this next scene here, we are seeing a closer up perspective of what appears to be the volcano area. Now at first I thought this temple factory-like area had some stained glass windows or something similar, but now upon closer inspection it looks like it's more like some sort of metal housing that has energy coursing through it. Some sort of weird material that's mostly orange and yellow and red, kind of like lava, but there's some green mixed in as well. So this could be an interesting chemical that may be a powerful energy resource, perhaps not too different from Phazon we saw in the prior Metroid Prime games. But what I think might be an even bigger takeaway here is that Samus is using this bike in this area here, and there is some sort of important cutscene taking place. It looks like she's actually getting out of it, so there might be some chase sequences throughout the game, which could be really cool, really fun, a nice diversion from the typical gameplay of Metroid Prime. But it also goes to show, as we've been talking about for the last month or so, that the Viola motorcycle will be usable beyond just the desert. Nintendo put out an article suggesting so, it's been suggested in other parts that have come out, like with the magazine scans, and now we are seeing it here more obviously that yes, you can use the bike in various areas. Not every area, but areas where there are more open expanses, you can use the Viola bike. And here is some literal proof of that. And the last thing I'll point out as they close out the trailer is just how much better animated everything is at the end. Clearly this trailer has had more work done with it than prior trailers. This just further suggests that Nintendo is now truly starting to get into the marketing campaign for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and I do think we are still just scratching the surface here. We are just getting started. This minute-plus trailer is not the full extent of the Metroid Prime 4 marketing plan. It is literally just the beginning. Those are my thoughts on the matter, though. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, you can use my code SLEEPRESTART when checking the link in the description below for the Manta Sleep Mask. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.